I have a friend who shares my love of history and the unexplained. Over the years, we've explored a lot of abandoned and mysterious places together. Anyway, so for this adventure, we decided we were going to stay at the St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico. Now, we knew the hotel had a history of ghosts, and we were thrilled to spend a few nights there. Not only would it be spectacular to see the history of the place, but it would be fun to see if we could catch anything spooky. So, with that in mind, I called to make reservations. I also asked about the hauntings and specifically about room 18. Most of the ghostly tales from the St. James revolve around that room. The lady on the phone said that the room was haunted, but it is not available for guests. The stories go that so many guests have been disturbed by something in the room that the management decided it was best to keep the door locked. Then the lady told me a story what had happened a week earlier. 2 women had been drinking at the bar downstairs. When the bar closed, they realized neither was in any shape to drive. So, they booked a room at the hotel for the night. As they got settled in their room, one of them looked over to see a man in a cowboy hat sitting in the rocking chair watching them. The woman screamed and turned on the light, but no one was there. The 2 women immediately dressed and left in the middle of the night. That happened in room 23. I booked that room for our weekend. So, the weekend finally comes. Amy and I were thrilled to stay at a haunted hotel. The event happened on the second night we were there, but I need to relay a few things first. Essentially, the only electric things provided in the guest rooms are the lamps. This adds to the Old West feel of the place, so there are no TVs, clocks, hair dryers, or coffee makers. Our first night there, we had dinner at the hotel bar and restaurant. The bar and restaurant close at 8 every night. After eating, we wandered through the lobby and talked to the lady who had checked us in. We asked a few questions, and she told us there was one other guest staying in the hotel that night. Also, she was off duty at 8, but there was a security guard on duty until 6. We were free to wander around the hotel as we wanted, but the bar and restaurant would be closed off and locked. The hallway doors would be closed between the guest rooms and the lobby, but not be locked. The hotel front door was open all night, and we could come and go to smoke. The hotel is non-smoking, and Amy and I are both smokers. So, to have a smoke, we'd come down the stairs and go out the front door. The downstairs guest room area is one long hallway. If there were no guests staying in a room, then that room door was left open. There was a velvet rope across the doorway, kind of like a museum. All of the guest rooms upstairs were closed and locked whether guests were staying in them or not. We heard a few unexplained things that first night. We got up and left around noon to explore the Dawson ghost town and cemetery. We got back around 5 and decided to have dinner at the hotel again. It was pleasant, and we took our time while enjoying the rustic decor. We finished eating around 7:30 and went outside to have a smoke. We wandered back through the lobby around 7:40. The same lady was behind the desk, and she excitedly waved us over. She told us that we were the only ones staying at the hotel that night. So, we had the run of the place without having to worry about any guests. Amy and I were so excited. Imagine being able to stay all by yourselves in a haunted hotel. We could explore every nook and cranny. We knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. We knew we were very, very lucky to have this chance, and we weren't going to waste a single minute. We rushed up into our room. We turned on the laptop so it would be ready for us to transfer pictures and recordings. We grabbed our cameras, recorders, and coats. Quickly looking around, we decided we had everything. As we left the room, we decided we would start the night by going outside for another smoke. This would also allow time for the restaurant to close and the last customers and workers to leave. We stopped at the bottom of the stairs. The hallway doors between us and the lobby were already closed. This was a little surprising, because they were open just a few minutes ago. But we figured the lady must have already closed them for the night. As we stood in front of the doors, we could hear voices. They weren't loud enough to make out words, but it sounded like 2 ladies in an animated conversation. We decided it was the kitchen workers finishing up for the night. As we stood there, listening to the distant conversation, we threw our coats on and stuffed the cameras and recorders into our bags in preparation for our smoke break. Now, I should mention that neither Amy nor I wear watches. We both rely on our phones or nearby clocks for the time. So, while still standing in front of the closed hallway doors, we dug out our phones, the distant voices tinkled into laughter and faded away. We gazed at our phones in silence. The time said 1:37 a.m. Now, during that long moment of silence, my mind went to the most reasonable explanation, and that was that my phone had messed up somehow. I flipped it open and closed a few times, but the time stubbornly remained at 1:37. I noticed I had missed a good night text from my husband. The timestamp on that was 9:12. Amy and I looked at each other and back at our phones. Hers said 1:37 also. We agreed that the phones had somehow messed up and glanced around uneasily. Our good moods became a bit more somber. It wasn't only about the phones, but somehow the atmosphere felt thicker. I told myself I was being too jumpy and that I needed to remember how excited I was that we had the whole place to ourselves. We pushed the hallway doors open and walked quickly across the lobby, still engrossed with what was happening to our phones. The security guard was sitting in a chair reading a newspaper. As we passed by, he said, "Getting a late start tonight, ladies?" We both smiled weakly as we walked out the front door. We lit our cigarettes and studied our phones. They now said 1:38. After a brief discussion, we decided we needed to know what time it really was, so we opened the front door and asked the security guard. He glanced down at his watch and said, "Oh, it's about 20 till 2, and went back to his newspaper. We were completely stunned. In a daze, we snuffed out our cigarettes and wandered back into the lobby. Amy and I both glanced up at a wall clock, 1:43 a.m. We looked helplessly at each other and back at the clock, still 1:43. We made our way across the lobby, through the hallway doors, and trudged up the stairs. We nervously unlocked our door and went into the room. It looked the same as we'd left it. The computer was still on and all was quiet. We both sat down and stared at our phones and each other in confusion. We sat there and talked through each event from that evening. We each thought we had spent around 10 minutes in our room. At most, we could stretch it to 20 minutes, but that was a stretch. Neither of us had sat down while in the room. We barely stopped moving because we were so excited to spend 10 hours freely roaming the vacant hotel. We knew we had gone up to our room around 7:45. Yet, we came downstairs and it was 1 in the morning? So, what had happened? How did we lose 5 hours in our room? We've discussed this over the years and have yet to figure it out. We talked to our husbands about it, and they both agreed it was weird and very unlike us to stall for 5 hours when we have an entire haunted hotel to ourselves. Amy and I did take a few pictures that night, but the night had lost its luster. We were both on edge and I felt on guard. We went to bed around 4 again, and after a few restless hours, we got up, checked out, and went home. We still to this day have no idea what happened. Though I had seen the St. James Hotel featured several times on the popular television show Unsolved Mysteries, and was very impressed with the stories, I never thought I would have the opportunity to visit there, let alone spend the night. However, in the late 1980s, I took a new job installing payphones all over the state of New Mexico. When I was given the task of installing phones in the Cimarron area, I decided to spend the night at the hotel. That first night, I stayed in the Zane Grey room, and as I was getting ready to take a shower, I noticed a small mirror hanging on the wall that was rocking back and forth. Though I tried to ignore it, the clicking sound persisted until I finally walked over to the mirror and felt the wall to see if it was vibrating. It wasn't. I then looked into the mirror to see if I might see the reflection of something other than myself. Nope, nothing but me. Then I touched the mirror on the lower corner, holding it to the wall, before slowly taking my finger off. The rocking stopped. Before going to the shower, I looked at the mirror and said out loud with a smile on my face, "What's the matter? Are you tired of playing?" The mirror went and stopped. This was mild compared to what I experienced later on. Just down the hall from my room is another small room with a poker table. I always thought it would be great fun to play poker there, but I never had the chance. That night, I had gone to bed early, as I had to be in Colorado the next morning. However, I was having trouble falling asleep, and as I tossed and turned, I began to hear the sounds of people talking down the hall. It was odd, as I was the only guest in the hotel that night. As I listened to the voices, it sounded as if they were calling poker games, such as Joker's Wild or Jacks or Better to Open. Curious, I got up, pulled on my pants, opened the door, and looked down the hall. There, in the corridor, was a lady in a bright red, ruffled, 19th century period dress. I went back into my room, thinking this might be my chance to play cards in the poker room I had always wondered about. I put on a shirt, went back out, and walked down the hallway to the poker room. When I poked my head in, 3 men, all in period dress, were playing poker. One of them asked me if I wanted to get in, to which I responded, "What are the stakes?" 20 ante, he replied. Unfortunately, all I had with me was a $20 bill and a company credit card. I would have needed more in order to bet. Having to decline, I went back to my room and went to sleep. When I got up the next morning and walked down the hall, I looked in the poker room. It was spotless, no empty bottles, no cigarette butts, not even a dirty glass. I then went downstairs to the front desk to check out and asked the desk clerk, "Were there any big winners last night?" "What do you mean?" she replied. "Those guys playing poker upstairs last night," I said. Shaking her head, she said, "Mr. Jenkins, I've been here all night, and you were the only one upstairs." I just stood there speechless, feeling as though I had just been hit over the head. I then walked away, left the hotel, and have never had the opportunity to return. I was sure that the people I had seen the night before had been part of some show or had attended a square dance, given their attire. They seemed so much like flesh and blood people. But the desk clerk had said I was there alone, and no one is allowed upstairs at night unless they are guests of the hotel. I don't know what I experienced, but I wish I had stayed a while longer and talked to them more. I berated myself for not having asked the men their names. What would have happened if I had asked them to leave? Would they have simply disappeared? But of course, I wouldn't have asked them to leave. I honestly thought they were real when I saw them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go watch my other ones. I have a ton of other videos that are get ready with me, scary, true stories. This one in particular, it is done at a haunted hotel. If you like haunted places and kind of want to see an experience of that as well, watch my other video. I'll attach the link to this one of some ghost hunting that was actually done here as well. And thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Please turn off.